Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education Multilingual Learners Curriculum Subcommittee. Today is Wednesday, April 19th. The time is now 6:03. With me this evening, I have Sherry McCready-Pritchard, Colin Hostin. We also have Francis Hayes, Dr. Alexandra Estrella, Robert Pennington, Taylor De Silva, and Alisa Canonico. And I believe I didn't miss anyone. So thank you for coming this evening. First item on the agenda is the minutes. Colin, were you able to read those? I don't know if Sherry can answer if she was able to review those. There were any changes?
I did have a look, thank you, and I don't have any changes on my end.
I have one on the section where it says Ms. Carpio was about to attend the conference. It's Ms. Carpio attended the conference. That was the only change that I saw. Sherry will excuse, but she's having some technical difficulty. So I guess it's just you and I, Colin, approving the minutes.
I'll make a motion
yes.
to approve as amended.
Thank you. And now this evening, we'll be discussing different topics. First topic, we'll be doing an overview of the MLL intake and registration process. We will also be discussing introduction to elevation, kindergarten enrollment data, and family center events. And now I'm going to pass the meeting over to Francis Hayes. Hi, Francis.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. ML Subcommittee. My name is Francis Hayes, as you know, the Education Administrator for Multilingual Learners. And today I have invited Taylor De Silva and Alisa Canonico, my Assistant Education Administrator for Multilingual Learners, to join me in today's presentation. As Diana stated, one of the things that takes place at the Family Center and one major service that we provide the families is assisting families with the registration process and the ML intake process. And I want to speak about the process and all it entails to get scholars into school. Alisa is overseeing the kindergarten registration process, and she will share our enrollment data and some changes we made in how we assess our incoming kindergartens. Taylor will present an introduction to Elevation, a new platform we are rolling out in May, where the ML department will be training administrators and ML teachers on the use of the new platform to gather all multilingual learning data in a more efficient, cost-effective way, and for ML teachers to have immediate access to the ML data that they need to guide their instruction and create goals for each individual student. Then we will end today's session with some updates, exciting updates about the Family Center and some events that are happening soon. So in terms of the registration process, one item that we put in place at the Family Center that did not exist was a registration checklist, an overview. So the families have a clear understanding of what is it that they need to be able to register their child. So we created a registration checklist with examples of the documents that they need to be able to be prepared to finalize the registrations. So in the first intake process, we have a family representative intake, welcome the family to the Family Center, and together in collaboration with the family, they go through this registration checklist. If the families don't have the documents that they need, the family rep shows them the back of that checklist and other examples of what documents they could utilize for evidence of residency, for evidence of ID, because for some families, they're unclear of what's acceptable and not acceptable. The family reps give them a copy of the document. They keep a copy for their file so that when they walk away from the Family Center, they have a concrete document that they could reference and take a look at so that they could return and submit the documents. Other families that have been through the process before from another district more or less know the documents that they require. But one of the things that we find in the registration process is that if they're coming from another state, some families don't know that they need the medicals in the blue form from Connecticut. So we also inform them of that information and they have to take that. So what does the process look like after we do the initial intake and inform the parents of what they need? Some parents have everything and just waiting for medical approvals. So we're going to go into the process. So as you see, the registration process starts with the intake of the family rep, but included in the registration process, the online process sometimes happens at home, but it's not finalized, but the bulk of the time is happening at the family center. And included in that registration is what we call the home survey, the family home survey. And I'm going to reference that when we talk about the ML intake and screening process in our next slide. But I want you to be mindful about that piece. That home language survey is very important in identifying whether we assess a student or we don't. Once all documents are in, we submit any medical records, vaccinations, and physical to two nurse assistants that are at the family center. So if the families come in with the medical forms and the records that we need, we immediately give it to the assistant nurse who review them. If there's any missing vaccine, what they do is the nurse contacts the family to make sure they get the vaccine. The family reps assist also families with getting those medical appointments as expeditious as they can. And we have a list of referrals and where they could get the medical forms, the physical. Sometimes they're referred to the high school. It depends on the wait list, but we try, that's what takes the longest. We try our best to support the families in getting those vaccines and those physicals completed. Once approved and all documents in, student is enrolled, and we submit the final approval to Jean, who then contacts the school and the schools contact the families. But there's an additional step that we need to talk about that's a little different for those students who are not identified as needing the assessment. And we're going into that screen now. So I spoke about the registration process, and included in the process is what we call the home language survey. In the home language survey, there are 3 questions that are posed. What is the primary language used at home, regardless of the language spoken by the student? What is the language most often spoken by students? And what is the language that the student first acquired? If any of those questions are responded with a language other than English, that determines that we must assess that student with the last link placement. Those students go through an additional process as opposed to a student that a family responds English, English, English to all 3 questions. Then that student, if he has all the documents, the family has all the documents, he has medical clearance, is immediately placed in the school. And I need to clarify the importance of the process of the home language survey is to really be able to identify who is an MLL, who needs service, and the language of communication that we clearly need to be knowledgeable that the family needs when we communicate anything with the family, to be able to have them to have access to all information, all school and district-wide information by knowing the language that we need to communicate with the family. And as you see in this slide, after we have identified that a student is a multilingual learner, and the way we identify that is once we administer that assessment, if that child does not get an overall of 4 or 5 in the last link placement, then that child is identified as an MLL. If the student passes, meaning he scores 4 or above an overall assessment, then that student is not identified as an MLL and will not get any service. But for those who are, the families are informed of the different programs, bilingual programs that exist among the district, and they must sign a consent form. That consent form gives them the options to select what program they want the district and the school to provide for their child. They also have the option of opting out of service. For those families who opt out of service, we still must every year provide them with the last link assessment to determine if they're meeting English proficiency, but we do not have to provide the service due to the fact that the parent requested no service. Once that student meets proficiency, then he's exited out of ML status. So I'm going to stop now because I gave a lot of information. Any questions about the registration process or any questions about the multilingual screening and identification placement process?
No question on my end, but I'm glad to hear that a child that's placed in MLL won't stay in the MLL program if, they catch up and they test out of it. Because I know that was a concern. And usually if they were MLL, they stay through MLL until they graduate, but this is great news. Colin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, and thanks, Francis. I'm just curious, is it also true vice versa? Like if a family opts out of MLL placement for one particular year, could they come back the next year or at any point and say, you know what, actually we prefer to opt into it?
Yes, they may.
Okay.
Yes, they may. That's a very good question. I also have to state that one of the most important things we also articulate to families is that the importance of the consistency of the program. So for example, a student who's an MLL and is in a dual language program may remain in a dual language program even if he meets proficiency. So he will continue to be provided with a program where he's going to be bilingual, biliterate, and they may remain. So some of those questions are posed by families that are afraid, if my child meets proficiency, is he going to be removed from the dual language program? Absolutely not. We want our students to be bilingual and biliterate.
Thank
So
you.
now, if we don't have any more questions, so now I'm going to turn the presentation to
Wait, did
Alyssa.
Sherry, hold on one second. Was that Sherry trying to
Yes,
ask a question?
I'm sorry for all the noise. I'm kind of, as you can see, I'm signed in on the phone. I'm also signed in. I want to be able to see the presentation. But I was just wondering, do you have an average of, we talked about parents who opt out. So typically, what percentage of parents will elect to be in the program as opposed to opting out?
I have to get the numbers for you, but based on my experience here and all the families that we have registered and we identify as MLL, I have not seen an opt-out yet.
Thank you for that.
Alyssa, you have kindergarten. Have you seen any opt-outs in kindergarten?
Very, very, very few. Like I would say 2, maybe 3.
Okay, so Alyssa.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. My name is Alyssa Canonico. I am one of the assistant education administrators for multilingual learners. And one of the tasks that I have really taken the lead on here at the Family Center is kindergarten registration, as well as kindergarten assessment for potential multilingual learners. So that's what I'll really be sharing with you all tonight, some of the new processes we've put in place, and in addition to some really exciting updates. So on the next slide, I'm sure everyone has seen this flyer out on social media. I know Francis showed it during last month's meeting. This is our Norwalk Public School kindergarten registration flyer. We've shared it out through the MPS Communications Department with many of our partners within the community, as well as the pre-kindergarten schools throughout the city of Norwalk. And one thing that we're really proud of here at the Family Center is that we've completely streamlined the registration process for our families. And we're also really trying to be as accommodating as possible to our kindergarten families. And so what we've done is we've started to invite them in on our late night evenings when we're here until 6 o'clock on Thursday nights. So for the summer, we'll be here until 7, as well as opening our doors on select Saturdays. So in the month of April, we were open on April 1st. We will be open again this upcoming Saturday, April 22nd. And we'll continue to invite families on Saturdays in May. So we'll be open on May 6th as well as May 20th for registration. In case our families who have multiple jobs or are working throughout the week, we really want to invite them in and be as proactive as possible to get our new families in and start that registration process. So we're trying to be very accommodating. Some other benefits of having the families come here to the Family Center to register. We're already able to start inviting our new families in our school community to some of our workshops and letting them know about events that are going on. So we're really able to engage them immediately. So that's really exciting. And a lot of our kindergarten parents are very excited to enter our school community. We're able to direct families to additional community resources. So if there is a need, we can really help educate and inform our families about what the city of Norwalk has to offer. And also we're able to administer the pre-last language assessment to any student who has a language other than English spoken at home. And we find out that information based on that home language survey that Francis was just talking about earlier, and I explained that that is a part of the registration process for every student. So if we see that a language is spoken at home other than English, we're able to invite them in to take the pre-last assessment. And so that leads me to my next slide, because as we have worked with our families last summer, we saw that there were some things that we wanted to change with the kindergarten assessment process. And so on this chart, you're going to see how we reorganized that process from how things were done in the past to our new kindergarten assessment process that we've been carrying out this school year. And so in that first row, you're going to see that in the past, our pre-K students were tested in their pre-K building. Now we're inviting all of our families here to the Family Center for lots of reasons, the reasons that I listed before, that we're able to really make connections and build relationships with our families. Also, in the past, students were assessed prior to starting the registration process. So sometimes students were tested in their pre-Ks and then ended up going to a private school or potentially even moved to another school district, either in Connecticut or a new state. Now we're only assessing students who have started the registration process. So we know that they're going to be coming to us. Something else that was done in the past was that students at their pre-K buildings, they were assessed based on an informal questionnaire that was completed by their pre-K teacher. But now, because we're waiting until after the families had started that registration process, we are assessing students based on the state mandated home language survey that's completed by the parent or guardian. Another little change that we created, in the past, those pre-K students, because they were being tested in their schools, they were being pulled out of activities and instruction. Now we are, again, because all those assessments are being done at the Family Center, we're having our Family Center representatives schedule appointments with the parents based on their availability and offering them those Thursday night sessions or Saturday morning sessions. And of course, if neither of those times work for them, we're able to arrange another time of the week where we're open and that they can come in. Lastly, something that was done in the past was how the families were able to complete that parent consent form that Francis was also explaining to you all earlier. So because the assessments were done at the school, our department would have to wait to receive the assessments, review the results, and if any of the students were eligible for multilingual services, our department would have to reach out to the families, make phone calls, explain to them the different programs that we have to offer, and then arrange for them to somehow come in and sign the paperwork to confirm that they want their child in a specific program. Now, because everything's done at the Family Center, our families are able to register their child, ask any questions they may have, get their son or daughter assessed if they need the language evaluation, and sit down with one of our family reps and talk about the different programs that we have to offer for our multilingual learners. So they're able to sign that parent consent form immediately while they're here. So while these may seem like a lot of changes, things have been going really, really well. So on my next slide, I kind of wanted to share with all of you the progress that we've seen thus far. So since registration opened in mid-January, we have had 434 kindergartners register for next year. Of the 434, 182 have a language on their home language survey listed other than English. So we know what we need to assess them for language support services. Of that 182, we have completed the assessment with 152 students. 32 have appointments to come in. And of the 150 assessments we've completed, 97 have been identified as multilingual learners eligible for services. And we already have their parent consent form completed. So we know which program that their parents want them to enter into the school. And that's really important because we're going to start communicating that with all of our elementary schools and the principals to make sure that they're properly scheduled and that they get their services on day one. The other chart that I have underneath those adorable faces, underneath the picture, are some district totals. So you're going to see currently in April of the 2022-2023 school year, so I'm talking about this year, we had 808 kindergarten students throughout our 13 different elementary schools. Right now, registered for next year, we already have 434. And so that means if none of our numbers change, and if we stay pretty consistent and we have approximately 800 kindergarten students, we've tested a little bit more than half. So we're really happy with that number because, like I said earlier, we want everyone to be able to start school on day one with the services that they need. You're going to see on that very last row, I have applied for lottery, have not begun the registration process yet. So there are some families who have applied to go to one of our elementary schools through the lottery, 141, and they have not started the registration process yet. So not only are our 4 amazing Family Resource Center representatives helping test all of these students and make the phone calls to bring them in and help support them with getting what they need, but they're also reaching out to those families who had signed up for the lottery who still need to start that registration process. So again, we're really trying to be proactive and we're starting to call those families in as well to help support them with the registration and to test the students if they need to be tested. Now, I know I just gave a lot of information, so I'm going to pause there and just see if anyone has any questions.
You know, it's great to see how organized and how quick everything is falling into place with everyone at the Family Center, how hard you guys are working and how easy it is now for families to register their child because they're not bouncing from school to a different office to seeing someone else, and everything is being done in one place. And seeing these pictures of these little ones with their little certificates are so cute. My question is, how from start to end, if you have no bumps in the road, how long would it take to register one child?
I mean, it could happen in that one day and that one visit. If the family has all of those documents that they need to complete the registration that Francis was reviewing earlier, and the parent has the child with them the day of the visit, it can all get done in one visit to the family center. Sometimes we may see a parent pop in without the child, and then that's when we would make an appointment for them to come back so that the student can be assessed if they need to. If again, on that home language survey, they have a language other than English listed. If not, then they would be done with the process in that one day.
And how many appointments would the family center be able to handle on a day?
So right now we schedule on our Saturday visits around 24.
Wow.
And on Thursday evenings, we start a little bit earlier in the afternoon as well. So we're able to do 15 on Thursday evenings. But like I said, we are very accommodating to the family. So Thursday nights and Saturdays work for a lot of our families, but if mom or dad is off on a Monday, we schedule them to come in on Monday. So we do testing, Monday through Friday.
And Diana, that's a very good question, because one family may have all the documents, and the family rep registers, has to enter the profile, the list of students, and download all those documents. So one family could take an hour because of all, if we have like three children registering, sometimes we have a family of 3. And one registration may take like 20 minutes or a half an hour because the families prepare with all the documents and the process goes quickly.
Thank you. Colin or Sherry?
Yes, you noted when the parents complete the paperwork, they identify which services. What specifically? How are they noted in the paperwork? I know I may have missed it when I was going through my phone nonsense, but
no, that's fine.
How is that?
So when Francis was explaining the programs that we offer here in the district, we offer bilingual classes. We have ESL, English as a second language. We have our dual language program, and then there is the option to opt out of services. So when after a student is assessed, we're able to get those results immediately. We sit down with the parent, say your child is eligible for services, and then our family reps will go over those options and what that looks like for their child in the school building. They'll sign, and then that's pretty much the process. They're able to sit down with the family reps at that one visit to select a program.
So how do you differentiate between ESL and bilingual? What's the just how does one distinguish between the two?
So for bilingual, those students will be receiving the support of a bilingual aide. We have our bilingual aides working in the buildings, and our ESL are working with our TESOL certified teachers, where that instruction is going to be in English, and they're going to make sure they're going to work collaboratively with the classroom teacher, or if they're pulling the student out for that more individualized instruction, they're able to use a certain specific scaffolds geared for our multilingual learners to access the grade level curriculum.
Okay.
And then we have the dual language program, which provides a 50-50 instruction in English and Spanish. We have a bilingual teacher who provides the instruction in Spanish, while the monolingual teacher provides the content in English.
Right. Okay. Thanks, guys.
I must add something we forgot about, what the family reps also do besides assessing our students. They also score the assessments right there and then, so that the families are aware whether they're eligible or not. In addition to that, we also provide a second assessment in Spanish to the native language Spanish language families to see if the students have a basis in their own language. And if they do, they acquire the English language a lot quicker. One assessment that's being administered, and we're going to end this year, is we were also assessing in the middle school incoming students and high school in mathematics, but we are going to remove that. And instead of assessing them here in math, each individual school will do their own assessment. And in high schools, We just follow based on their transcript reviews, what math course they need and are required to take. And in middle school, they're placed in either their 6th or 7th or 8th grade math class. So the assessment wasn't so aligned to the curriculum and the core. So that math at least will be eliminated from the process.
Thank
And
you.
now,
Colin?
Thank you. Looking at the current slide, it looks like we're making great progress. My only question really was, we talked about making, a series of changes to how some of the process works. And I'm just curious as to how some of those changes are being communicated out to families so that they can keep up with the new way of doing things. But the numbers look like, they're keeping up. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
I mean, I would just say that they're getting, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Francis.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
They're getting those individual personalized calls. So once they either start that registration process independently online at home, one of our family reps is reaching out to them and calling them in and explaining what documentation they would need to still submit and whether or not the child would need the language assessment. If they're coming into the family center and we're helping them do the registration online here, then again, they're just getting that communication from the very beginning. Previously, I can't really speak to whether or not the parents knew which day their child was going to be assessed in the pre-K. They may have just been notified, hey, we're doing language assessments this week in your pre-K. And it was not as systematic or cohesive. So like the family would really the family's really a part of the entire process from the beginning by coming into the family center. From the registration piece that all families need to complete to join Norwalk Public Schools, to the testing, to deciding on that program for when they start school in September.
Great. It's another great reason to have a one-stop shop.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to add one piece that I think is important, and it changes a little bit, so my data might have been adjusted. But I always want to make sure that we're able to compare to where we were last year, because what we would find in the district is that in end of July and August, there is a plethora of families trying to register, and it becomes a very, very busy time for us. And where we were last year at this time to where we are now this year, we're looking at a registration of almost double the families that we've been able to register in April than where we were last year. So I think we're in a much better place. And I think that we've built this system that is really supporting families early. And I think that we'll still be able to support during the summer, but we've seen a lot of positive systems put in place to support this.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, because I heard last year that August was a nightmare trying to get all those registrations in all at once. Mm-hmm.
So Taylor?
Good evening, everybody. I am Taylor Da Silva, Assistant Education Administrator for Multilingual Learners, and I am very excited to announce our partnership with Elevation. Elevation is a digital platform that houses all MLL information. So the platform holds all MLL data, including demographics on all of our students, test results throughout all of the years, program selection, or house our program letters and any updates that we have for programming and program selection, and any ML service information, including the teachers that service and the service hours that will help us to monitor program services and compliance. Elevation also generates mandatory letters that the MLL office sends out annually to families regarding our students' English language proficiency progress and growth. We are currently in the implementation process with our Elevation consultants right now. We're finalizing all of the configurations and sort of how we want to utilize the reports. So we are really excited to unfold this database in May. We are planning a professional learning session with our ML teachers at the beginning of May, as well as our principals and assistant principals. And what we're going to do is we're going to share the platform with them, make sure that everybody has access to be able to utilize this database by the middle of May, and it'll roll in fresh for the next school year. It's really a one-stop MLL shop. So I really want to just share a little bit of our elevation overview with you. I have just a little video.
Taylor?
Sure.
Can you just answer one, like, what was the problem that we were trying to solve and which led us to this? Can you share a
So
little bit?
let me, actually, Rob, you took the words right out of my mouth. So let me share this with you first before I share a little bit of the overview video. So right now, our school system utilizes PowerSchool, and this is the database that we use to house all of our student information. But there's a lot of complications with PowerSchool, and it's not able to have us run reports with multiple pieces of information that we need, that our teachers need, that our administrators need in order to service our students and plan for instruction for our students. So right now we're using PowerSchool. We're using DRC, which is the owner of Lost Links. It holds all of the Lost Links assessments results. And we are creating manual Google Slides and Google Sheets for each school. So we have 21 manual Google Sheets that we are updating on a daily basis. It is very time consuming, but it's something that we have to do because of the constraints with PowerSchool and DRC in order to give all of our teachers and administrators access to the information that they need to plan for and support our students. So in this new process, we're going to have one digital database that's going to house all of the information. You're going to have your student demographics. You're going to have your test results from year to year. You're going to be able to progress monitor students. You're going to be able to track a student. It's almost like each student has their own portfolio, and you'll be able to track student progress year after year. You'll also be able to print out reports. Teachers will be able to bring them to team meetings. Administrators will be able to use them to discuss any interventions or any other services that a student may need. We'll be able to track our service compliance. So I know that we in the past have shared with you our MLL service requirements based on different Lost Links levels. There's different pull out or push in times that each student requires. So we'll be able to track the progress of that. And also having all of this data in one place, not only the Lost Links assessments, but NWEA data. So all of the different assessments that we give in the district, we're going to be able to track the growth and progress of each individual students. We'll also be able to plan for instruction and plan for a focus for each student. It's really going to hold us accountable. It's going to be a really easy database to utilize to get our data from. And all of our administrators, our district administrators, our principals, assistant principals, and our teachers will have access to really group students, look at students as a whole, and really be able to track progress. So I'd like to just share with you a little bit of an overview, if that's okay. Just a little introduction video.
One out of every 10 students across the U.S. is considered an English language learner, and the numbers continue to grow. While these students bring incredible assets to the classroom, dedicated educators across the country struggle to provide the proper support. For example, there's the ELL coordinator managing complex programs across multiple schools and satisfying compliance obligations while supporting staff development. Or the ELL specialist, who's in charge of setting goals, tracking progress, and aligning student instruction to ELD standards, all while directly supporting students. And of course, the classroom teacher, who needs to scaffold instruction for an increasingly diverse and demanding classroom. Elevation is a software application designed by former educators to help district leadership teams better serve these important students. Elevation enhances instruction, increases productivity, and improves collaboration for ELL programs. Districts serving ELLs are supported from identification, through assessment and instruction, to exit, and even through monitoring. With Elevation, educators can interact with ELL student data in a meaningful way, generating language plans, parent letters, reports and analyses that support planning, PD, instructional collaboration, and program reporting requirements, all while saving educators huge amounts of time. Join the hundreds of school districts who are using Elevation to help ELLs achieve their highest aspirations.
So as you see, this will really help with all of our data, just housing it in one area. And it's been really difficult to have all of these manual data sheets because, as you know, we have students that enter, that transfer, that move. Every single time we change in a student, we need to manually shift students to different data sheets. So we're constantly tracking all of our data. And this system connect automatically to PowerSchool and DRC and all of our test results. So it will just fuse right into one system. It'll be a great platform for us to have. Any questions on Elevation at all?
No questions. It just sounds like a really, really great opportunity to have everything, easily at your fingertips, because the manual data entry, I know, took a lot of time. And even if you just wanted to run a report, that took forever. But it's also a safety check, right? Because then a child can't get lost in the system or fall through the cracks or anything like that. So
definitely our teachers, there's also, as soon as you open the portal, it says the students that have just entered your school. So if Diana is switching from Brookside to Jefferson, when Jefferson teachers automatically open that this system the next day, Diana will pop up on their roster. So they already know you're there and they have all of your information so that they can come introduce themselves and plan for your instruction and plan goals to support you so you don't have any gaps.
Awesome. Sherry or Colin?
Yes, so go ahead, Colin.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so this seems just to be a platform to kind of streamline the information. And I'm wondering, are there other school districts using it? It would seem that it's probably the gold standard in this practice.
It is the gold standard. I'm on the board for the Connecticut Administrators of Programs for English Language Learners for the state of Connecticut. And when I reached out to everybody that was utilizing this, they either wrote back to me saying, we have it or we want it. Because it is the only database that can house all of this information. And there were rave reviews, especially from the larger districts like Hartford. Hartford would even invited us for an online training. She was so into it. The director of EL invited us to a training session with her teachers.
Great. And I imagine they're going to provide you with all kinds of support, right? I mean, sometimes you purchase these programs and you're kind of left hanging, but I would hope that you're going to have back office support with this, correct?
Absolutely. We have support. We have professional learning sessions available for us as district administrators and also for our teachers. And one thing that's been great is we've already had about 5 configuration meetings. So we are part of building the database specific to Norwalk. Every district looks a little different. But we've been able to build a database as to what we specifically want and what we expect, what information we expect teachers to have and utilize.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And now Family Centers update. Remember last month in our subcommittee, I talked about a new initiative at the Family Center, an internship program for high school students, 10th grade to 12th grade. And we welcome our 2 new interns, Soraya, she's our office assistant intern, 10th grader from Centers for Global Studies, and Nadine, who is our Family Food Pantry assistant, 11th grader from Norwalk High. They're so excited. They started last week. They're going through a training. My assistant, Adriana Romero, has done an amazing job with this initiative interviewing the candidates. They came in with their resumes. We had a team interviewing them. She's training them, and they're very excited to be here at the Family Center, and they're going to be working with us at the center. We did their schedule surrounding their school schedule to make sure that there's no conflicts, and we're excited. We're still interviewing. We still have vacancies for interns. So any high school student who's still interested, please email Adriana Romero. We're still interviewing for vacancies. And now we have 3 family events that occur. 2 of them happen. There are art and craft events that are happening at the Family Center. We had an International Women's Month, and on Wednesday, March 29, we had a total of 30 participants creating an image of an international woman. It was an amazing experience. Everybody is raving about it. People contacted us about registering for the other ones. The second one we had on April 11th, it was creating a family portrait. So families came in groups of 3, in groups of 4, and we provided them with one canvas. And in that canvas, they had to create and reflect on their family and create a family portrait. The paintings were amazing. This is led by Desi Cabral, who's been doing an amazing job. And I'm going to show you some of the images that are amazing that families made. Everyone came in not learning how to paint, but they walked out an artist. So these are the images. The
Wow.
3 are from the event that we did, a family portrait. And you had the moms and the grandma and the grandchild painting these family images, different families. And that was more of an international painting because there were families from all different countries that day. We had 25 families coming in. The 3 rows on the bottom painting, these are actual paintings done from people. They're creative. That was from the event that we held for International Women's Month. And we have one more event coming up, and we already have 40 families registered. We think we might have to open up one of the other conference rooms because they've been reaching out. The word is getting out to the Family Center to see if they could come. So we might have to just open up another conference room to welcome other family members. And the final arts and craft event is we're celebrating Cinco de Mayo. But with Cinco de Mayo, we did a little twist to it. So we're gonna be creating multicultural masks from different parts of the world. Not only the masks that are done in Mexico, but from other countries. So I think we're gonna select 4 different countries, and the families, we have like 40 families already registered, as I stated. But that is Thursday, May 4th, the day before Cinco de Mayo. And we have snacks for the families. And I always stay because I love those events. One of the images is mine that I put in there anyway. So we look forward. If any board members would like to attend, please stop by May 4th, and you can see the amazing things that are happening here at the Family Center. These are the upcoming Family Center update for the month of April and May. We sent it out to communication so that they can inform the families. We also have the family reps reaching out to families and doing phone calls to remind them of the different events so that they could engage in all these activities. And last but not least, I briefly share a high school event that is coming up with Luis Moro. Our department is excited to have coordinated with Delcy Carvajal Equal Access Education. It's how to obtain student scholarship in the United States, regardless of immigration status. We are incredibly honored to have Louis Motor visit Norwalk to speak to our scholars next month. Mr. Motor was a former MLL, and he's passionate about motivating other MLLs on achieving their dream and goals for success. As a young man growing up in Venezuela, he stood out for its effort and dedication to his studies. And despite being a refugee and moving 8 times in his first year in the United States, his perseverance and determination have brought him to be much successful in the field of education and politics, even working with Michelle Obama. So while he knows for his many accomplishments, one of his passions, as I stated, is really talking to young people and motivating them to achieve their goals. And how do they achieve those goals, and providing them with the necessary tools to overcome difficulties that may arise in their path to success. So Mr. Moro sent me a video message for the Norwalk High School Public School Scholars in preparation for this event that's happening at Norwalk High from 9 to 10:30. I'm collaborating with the principals and administration. So we're scheduling for them to come down to the auditorium and in Brian McMahon at the high school from 12:45 to 2:15. We have an evening session for all parents at Brian McMahon from 6 to 7:30 on that same day, May 18. So we're very excited about this event. And he sent a little video that no one has seen it yet. You guys are going to be the first to see it. So Taylor, if you could share that video clip from Mr. Moro.
Como estudiante migrante, sé que las universidades pueden ser difíciles y sobre todo costosas. Sin embargo, las becas son ese comodín que nos permite pues realizar nuestros sueños en Estados Unidos, y es por eso que te invito a mis conferencias donde puedes en realidad aprender sobre cómo aplicar a cualquier universidad que decidas ir, y sobre todo cómo tener ese ensayo ideal para poder ganar una beca y cumplir tu sueño americano. Es por eso que te invito a mi conferencia Bécate, porque recuerda que la educación es el pasaporte para un futuro próspero, y nuestro mañana depende de las personas que entrenemos y preparemos el día de hoy. You, the students of Norwalk, Connecticut, I cannot wait to meet you all.
So he's going to avail them a resource of where they could apply, a pamphlet with a lot of information, and he's an amazing motivational speaker. So we're very excited to have him come aboard. Any questions?
No questions, but how exciting. It's wonderful to see the attendance at the Family Center events grow and grow with more events that you do. I think word of mouth has helped a lot with the families, you all reaching out to these families. That says a lot about what you and your team are doing, because these families are feeling safe. They're coming in to learn. And it's all different topics, from finance to registration, to any type of services that you guys are educating the families and the students with. And it was great. I went to one of the meetings when you were talking about the different pathways, and to see if students so involved in asking questions for herself, even though her dad was sitting right there next to her, she was the one asking all the questions and being involved and excited. But thank you for everything that you do. Sherry or Colin?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great wealth of resources, including, like this event about navigating scholarships, which is hard enough for any student. I think it's great to just provide these resources. It only empowers them, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you.
Thank you for your support in all our initiatives, especially providing it to not only the multilingual learners, but to all students from Norwalk Public School.
Yes, thanks for that. Very important. He seems like an impressive young man, and I think he'll make quite an impact. And it's also good to hear about all the good things happening in the Family Center, given that, there's some naysayers in there. I'm really happy to see that you guys are doing some really wonderful things and accomplishing a whole lot.
Thank you so much.
All good? Is that it, Francis? You're done?
Yes, thank you. We've ended our session, sorry.
That's okay.
I was so excited that I forgot where I was.
Well, thank you to you and your team, Taylor, Alyssa, Rob, for all the information this evening. Everything, all the hard work is greatly appreciated. So any closing remarks from anybody else? No? All right. So motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Time is now 6:58. See you soon.